Father's Day was always a weird holiday in my house. Other families would go out for brunch or barbecue in the backyard. We had performances. Elaborate dinners where each of us kids had to go around the table and say what we were grateful to Dad for. Like it was his birthday, and he was a war hero who just returned from battle. Spoiler, he wasn't. My dad, Rick, had a mouth like a knife and hands that never clapped for anyone but himself. He ran our family like a corporate boardroom. Everyone had a rank, and he made sure we never forgot who was bottom tier. Guess who that usually was? Yep. Me. My name's Eli. Middle child, middle everything. My older sister, Vanessa, was the golden child with the law degree and a husband who wore salmon-colored polos and called Dad Sir. My younger brother, Jordan, was the wild card who got into trouble so often Dad started calling it boys will be boys, instead of, actual felonies. Me? I was the quiet one. The IT guy. We don't really know what he does, but he works from home and hasn't gone to jail yet, so good for him. 1. They never asked how I was doing. They just assumed I was doing fine because I wasn't making their lives harder. What they didn't know is that I'd spent the last 5 years building a tech startup from scratch, something they dismissed as nerd stuff. They didn't ask. And I didn't tell. Which worked out just fine. Because Father's Day this year? That was the day I stopped being the punchline and started being the one with the final word. It all started at dinner. My parents invited everyone to their house. Big event. Catered, of course, because heaven forbid Mom cook anything that didn't come with a delivery fee. We were seated around the long table in the dining room, the one with the chandelier that Dad always bragged was imported from Spain, even though I found the receipt once, and it was from Home Depot. Vanessa sat to his left. Jordan to his right. I was down near the end of the table, next to the sliding door, like I was waiting to be let outside when dinner was over. Dad raised a glass. To family, he said. Everyone echoed him like trained seals. Then he leaned back in his chair, looked around the room, and said the words I'd remember for the rest of my life. I just want to say, he began, smiling that smug, crooked smile he always wore when he was about to hurt someone on purpose. I'm proud of all my children. A pause. Then, with a dramatic flair, he turned his eyes to me. Except the loser sitting at the table pretending he belongs here. Everyone laughed. Everyone. Even my mom. Even Vanessa's husband. Even Jordan. It wasn't just the words. It was how comfortable they were laughing at me. How natural it was to throw me under the bus and keep on eating like nothing happened. I sat there for a second, letting the laughter fill my ears. And then I smiled. Not because it was funny, but because I knew something they didn't. I reached under the table, pulled a small black envelope from my pocket, and slid it onto the table in front of Dad. For you, Dad, I said loud enough to cut through the room. Happy Father's Day. The laughter died. Everyone went quiet. He stared at the envelope like it was a bomb. Spoiler, it was. Then I stood up, straightened my blazer, I dressed for the occasion, and calmly walked out the back door. The silence behind me was chef's kiss. But I wasn't done yet. In the driveway sat a black Mercedes S-Class. Immaculate. Leather seats. Chrome detailing. The same car I'd gifted my dad 3 months ago when my company got acquired for high 8 figures. He told everyone he bought it himself. He didn't. And now? I had the keys. Literally. The car was still in my name. I'd just let him drive it. Let him think he'd earned it. I clicked the fob. The engine purred to life. I climbed in, adjusted the seat, and backed out as slowly as I could. Right as I reached the street, I heard it. A scream. Not pain. Panic. Because he'd opened the envelope. And finally realized what I gave him. Not a card. Not a check. But a legal document. The first page of a cease and desist order. Along with a transfer of ownership form for the car, back to me. And attached? A printed screenshot of a group text he didn't know I was in. One where he called me a failure, a leech, an embarrassment, with a sticky note on top that read, "The embarrassment just took the car back. Enjoy the Uber, Rick." To be continued. My dad didn't scream often. He was more of a grit your teeth and destroy you later type. So hearing him shout as I drove away? That was new. It was like watching a volcano finally blow after years of quiet rumbling. Cathartic. Loud. And a little overdue. I didn't look back. But I knew exactly what he was reacting to. Because inside that envelope wasn't just some dramatic letter. No, I don't do drama. I do documentation. Let's rewind 3 months. That luxury car he'd been flaunting at church, on Facebook, at family gatherings? The one he swore he worked hard for. He didn't buy it. I did. In cash. And when I handed him the keys, he didn't even say thank you. Just nodded and said, "About time one of you kids gave back." Back then, I let it slide. Now, I took it all back. The transfer of ownership form inside the envelope had already been processed, digitally signed and confirmed with the DMV. That car was mine again. I also included an immediate cease and desist order. No more using my name or business to boost his image. I knew he'd been bragging at his country club, calling himself advisor to a tech CEO. Funny, considering he once told me my work was computer nonsense. The third item? That was the nuke. A printout of group messages between him, my mom, and Vanessa. From last Christmas. They didn't know I'd seen them. Jordan had left his phone unlocked during a visit, and well, curiosity isn't always a sin. The texts were brutal. Vanessa. "Are we seriously inviting Eli again?" "Mom. Rick says we have to." "He gave you know what?" "Dad. He'll probably show up in one of his thrift store suits. Just keep him away from the guests." And the closer. "Dad. At least he paid for the catering. Losers can still be useful." "So, yeah?" I printed that out. Stapled it to the legal form. Added a little sticky note that simply said, "Still useful, huh?" That's what he opened at the table. That's what shut down their perfect dinner. And the best part? I wasn't even done yet. As I pulled into my driveway, I parked the car in my garage, shut the door, and silenced my phone. The messages had already started pouring in. First from Mom. "Eli. What was that? Your father is furious. Please call me." Then Vanessa. "That was low. You made a scene. Grow up." Then Jordan. "Bro, that was kind of savage. What did you even give him?" He flipped. I didn't reply to any of them. Not yet. I just sat on my couch, opened a beer, and let the quiet wrap around me. Not guilt. Not regret. Just peace. I'd spent my whole life swallowing insults, letting my achievements get buried under their performances. Every birthday I got ignored. Every holiday I was tolerated. Every time I paid for something and watched them pretend it was their generosity. That envelope? It wasn't revenge. It was a receipt. A record of all the debt they owed me. And that scream? That was the sound of the balance finally being due. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of vindication and 47 unread messages. Most people scroll their phone in bed. I watched the fire I'd lit from the comfort of my kitchen, sipping black coffee like I hadn't just detonated a nuclear-grade family drama 12 hours earlier. Jordan was the first to call. I didn't answer. Then came a text. "Vanessa and Mom are fighting. Like bad. Dad hasn't come out of his room. WTF did you do?" "Oh, just finally stopped playing the clown in their family circus." Apparently, after I walked out and drove away in the Mercedes, Dad opened the envelope, went pale, and just stared at the pages. According to Jordan, Mom reached for them, read 3 lines, and froze. Vanessa tried to say it was fake. Too bad I had receipts. Real ones. See, I'd attached one more document to the envelope they hadn't even reached yet, a bank statement. Highlighted in yellow was a $40,000 wire transfer to a fund I created in Dad's name. A gift. From me. 6 months ago. Back when I was still trying to win a little approval. Apparently, they had forgotten that part. So when I took back the car, cut the financial cord, and exposed the backroom text messages, they finally realized the loser wasn't just a black sheep anymore. He was the one paying for the entire damn farm. I finally replied to Jordan. I gave him a folder full of truth. Guess he finally read something. His response came fast. Dude, you broke Mom. She locked herself in her room too. Vanessa's losing it because you printed her texts. She says she's being defamed. Bro. You might need a lawyer face with tears of joy. I smirked. I already had one. I'd spent years keeping quiet. But not dumb. Every time they used my name to sell themselves as a successful family unit, I took note. Every passive-aggressive comment? Archived. And every dime I gave? Tracked. Meticulously. I had digital folders labeled. For the day they try me. That day came. And I came prepared. Around noon, I got a call from an unknown number. I picked up without thinking. Eli? It was Mom. Her voice was smaller than I'd ever heard it. We didn't know you felt that way. Didn't you? I said, keeping my voice flat. You never said anything. Neither did you. Not when I paid for your vacation. Not when Dad said I was an embarrassment in front of your friends. Not when you told people Vanessa was your only real success. She was quiet. Then, almost whispering, he's not taking it well. Neither did I. She took a shaky breath. He says you're trying to destroy this family? I actually laughed. You think the truth destroys families? Or is it the fact that now you can't hide from it? There was a long silence. Then, I just wish you'd talk to us. I did, I said. You just weren't listening. Then I hung up. I stood there in my kitchen for a while, staring at nothing. This wasn't just revenge anymore. It was grief. I wasn't just punishing them. I was burying the version of me who kept waiting for love that never came. The family group chat had always been one-sided. Mostly announcements from Mom, filtered photos from Vanessa with captions like, blessed and thriving, and the occasional boomer meme from Dad, who still thought Minions were peak comedy. I rarely said anything. Just reacted with the occasional thumbs up to keep the peace. But the morning after Father's Day? It was nuclear. Dad, your childish stunt last night has consequences. You embarrassed me in my own home. Mom, this isn't the place, Rick. Vanessa. Eli, I don't know what your problem is, but airing private conversations in front of guests. That was disgusting. Jordan. Y'all said those things though skull. Vanessa. Jordan. Shut up. Jordan. Nah, FR y'all been treating him like garbage for years and now he's the bad guy for finally standing up? Miss me with that. I had to read that twice. Jordan, the same brother who once sold my bike for beer money, was backing me up? We really were in the end times. I didn't reply. Not yet. Instead, I sat back, coffee in hand, scrolling as they spiral texted their way through denial, blame, and my personal favorite, revisionist history. Dad, we always supported you, Eli. Even when you were different. Different. As in, not useful. Not flashy. Not someone they could brag about at holiday parties. Back in college, when I built my first app that got 50,000 downloads in a weekend, they never asked about it. Vanessa's C+ in constitutional law got more applause than my startup's first investor check. And now that I'd handed Dad a folder that exposed all their hypocrisy? Now they wanted dialogue. By noon, Vanessa had posted one of those vague Instagram stories. Families fight. But love is louder. Two hearts #forgiveness #growth. Yeah. Real loud when you're calling me a loser in private group texts. Meanwhile, Mom posted an old photo of me and Dad at a Little League game, cropped so I looked like a background extra. No matter what happens, We love you, Eli. Proud of the man you've become. No tag. No apology. Just narrative spinning. Damage control. The same routine they ran every time they hurt someone. Rewrite it before the truth sticks. Well, not this time. Because I wasn't the same quiet kid anymore. I'd spent years being the harmless one. The guy who smiled through jabs and paid the dinner bill without complaint. But the thing about being underestimated for too long? You start collecting evidence. Every ignored achievement. Every fake laugh at my expense. Every bill I paid while they called me broke behind my back. I had it all. Screenshots. Receipts. Voice memos from drunken birthday parties where they toasted to real success. And didn't even mention me. I'd kept it all. Just in case. And now? The case had been made. They tried calling me bitter. Unstable. Dramatic. But every message, every photo, every receipt said otherwise. I didn't scream. I documented. I didn't explode. I executed. The voicemail came at 2:13 a.m. My phone buzzed against the nightstand, casting pale light across the room. I didn't answer, but I played the message while lying flat on my back, staring at the ceiling fan turning slowly above me. It was Dad. His voice wasn't angry this time. It was measured. Calculated. Like a man giving his final speech before court. Eli. I've had time to think. Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I didn't realize how much I hurt you. That was never my intention. You've become a successful man, and I can see that now. Your mother and I, we just want to talk. Right. Because now that the public image was cracking, now he wanted to reflect. By sunrise, I had 3 more messages. One from Mom. One from Vanessa. One from someone I didn't expect, Uncle Ron. Hey, your dad's not doing so well. I know things got out of hand, but he's still your father. Maybe give him a call. Clear the air? Clear the air? There wasn't a fog machine big enough to cover the lies they built a family around. I didn't reply. Instead, I poured a black coffee, sat on my balcony, and finally opened the private email account I hadn't touched in 2 years. The one tied to the trust. See, a year ago, I'd started something behind the scenes. A long-term project. A private fund set aside for community scholarships and outreach. I never talked about it because I wasn't doing it for clout. I did it for the kid I used to be, the one eating lunch alone while his family joked at his expense. And guess who I made co-beneficiaries? Jordan. And my niece. Vanessa's kid? Not Vanessa. Just her daughter. Because as messy as the adults in my family were, the next generation deserved a chance. A real one. This wasn't just about walking away anymore. This was about redirecting the legacy. Later that day, I got a dinner invite. Hand-delivered. An actual envelope, cream-colored, with a wax seal like they were hosting a Game of Thrones summit. Inside was a letter in Mom's handwriting. We'd like to host one more dinner. Just us. No guests. No games. Just family. To talk. There was a PS in Dad's handwriting. Bring the car if you're willing. I miss it. I laughed so hard I almost spilled my coffee. They wanted a reconciliation dinner. On their terms. After years of humiliation, after their staged laugh track at my expense, they wanted to reset the stage and recast me as a supporting character in their redemption arc. Nope. Instead, I sent a letter of my own. Email. Plain text. No flair. Thanks for the invite. I won't be attending. But I did bring something to the table, honesty. The fact that it broke the illusion wasn't my fault. It was yours for building everything on a lie. Then I attached one file. Just one. A scanned image of the car's new title. Registered in my company's name now. And a screenshot from an email where Dad had once written to a friend, bragging that he raised a CO. With the caption, "Funny. You forgot to mention how hard you tried to keep me small." Then I hit send. And for the first time in years I felt done. Not angry. Not wounded. Just free. The silence didn't feel peaceful. It felt rehearsed. Like everyone in my family had huddled after Father's Day and agreed to pretend none of it happened. No apology, no explosion, just airbrushed denial. Classic. But silence can scream when it comes from people who usually never shut up. The group chat was dead. My calls weren't returned, which, fine. I wasn't making any. But then Vanessa posted a filtered photo of our childhood house, captioned, "Every family has storms. The strong ones survive them." I stared at the screen and felt that familiar heat rise, rage and irony, wrapped in pretense. She wasn't surviving a storm. She was the storm. And when the wind finally blew back in her face, she clutched her pearls like a victim. Not long after, Jordan texted, "You free?" I didn't answer. He showed up anyway. He arrived at my door with 2 coffees and that signature look of, "I'm probably going to say something stupid, but I'm here anyway. Don't hit me," he said. "This one has that weird almond milk you like." We sat on the balcony in silence for a while, the city buzzing beneath us. Eventually he spoke. "They're imploding, man. Vanessa's throwing shade online. Dad hasn't come out of his office in days. Mom keeps asking if she should call you." "She shouldn't," I said calmly. He nodded. "Figured." There was a long pause, then Jordan said something that actually surprised me. "I used to think you were just quiet. But you were just surviving, huh?" I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. He looked down at his cup. "You're not gonna talk to them again, are you?" "I don't owe them my peace," I replied. "I've got better people to share it with." He exhaled slowly. "Good. You deserve that." He stood up, patted my shoulder awkwardly, then handed me a folded slip of paper before leaving. "Thought you'd want to know," he said. Inside? A copy of a draft email from Dad's account. Printed. And signed. Titled Statement for Eli's Revenge Incident. It was PR spin. Clean, sanitized, and dripping with manipulation. "Despite recent events, we still love our son. His decisions, though unfortunate, come from a place of pain." Pain? Unfortunate? They were already rewriting the story. Prepping their version for friends, family, maybe even church. They wanted their narrative back. But I'd already published mine. Not online. Not to strangers. But in life. I'd cut the financial leash. I took back the car. I gave my niece a future without strings. And I made peace with the fact that my role in this family was never to be celebrated, it was to be used. Not anymore. Later that night, I reopened a journal I hadn't touched in years. The one I used to write in after every family gathering where I left feeling invisible. I rewrote the last entry. Not from the kid who used to beg for a seat at the table. But from the man who now owns his table. Who chooses who sits at it. And who's finally okay with the fact that sometimes family isn't who raised you, it's who respects you. I hadn't planned to see them again. Not in person. Not anytime soon. But life has a way of dragging you into rooms you swore you'd never walk into again. It started with an email from Aunt Lydia, Mom's sister, the only relative I had a soft spot for. Her 70th birthday was coming up, and she was throwing a small party at a winery just outside the city. "Don't worry," her email read. "Your parents are invited, but they won't be the center of attention. I'd really love to see you." I stared at the screen for a long time. I hadn't seen Aunt Lydia since before I made my first 6 figures. She was the only one who used to send birthday cards that had actual effort behind them. Not money but words. Real ones. So I RSVP'd yes. Not for them. For her. But I knew it wouldn't be that simple. The venue was beautiful. Rustic tables, string lights, a soft breeze that carried the smell of grapes and overpriced appetizers. I showed up in a charcoal gray suit. Subtle flex. No flash. Just quiet power. People noticed. Some relatives I hadn't seen in a decade gave me double takes. A few nodded politely. Others came straight over with hugs and You look amazing. What are you doing these days? I smiled. Just living well. I made a point to avoid the table near the patio where Mom, Dad, and Vanessa were sitting. They saw me. Didn't wave. Didn't dare. But then the mic came out. Aunt Lydia stood and raised her glass. She gave a heartfelt thank you speech, cracked a joke about turning 70, and thanked everyone for coming. Then, of course, she said, I'd like to invite my nephew Eli to say a few words. He was always the quiet one, but I've been so proud watching him become the man he is today. I didn't flinch. I walked right up, took the mic, and scanned the room. Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. Vanessa crossed her arms. Mom gave me that weak smile I'd seen 1,000 times, the one she used when pretending we were still close. I cleared my throat. Thank you, Aunt Lydia. You've always made people feel seen. Even the ones most others didn't. I let the pause linger. You all know me, I continued. Some of you probably remember the Eli who sat in the corner at family reunions. Who was always off doing computer stuff. The one no one asked about, but everyone had opinions on. A few people chuckled. Uncomfortable laughter. I used to wonder why I didn't fit. Why my achievements never got framed. Why my silence got mistaken for weakness. And then one day, I stopped wondering. Because I realized the version of me you ignored is the same one who built everything I have now. More silence. I don't say this for applause. I say it because maybe someone else in this room feels like the background character in their own family. And I want you to know something, you don't have to wait for their approval to become someone. I looked directly at Dad. Sometimes your strength isn't in how loud you can be. It's in how long you can hold your tongue while you build. Quietly. Steadily. Relentlessly. I smiled. And then, one day, you don't need their table. Because you built your own. I handed the mic back and walked off as calm as I came. Aunt Lydia was tearing up. Vanessa looked like she swallowed a lemon. Dad? He was pale. For once, he wasn't in control of the room. I was. And I never raised my voice once. 3 weeks passed after the winery. No one called. No one wrote. But I heard from everyone. A cousin messaged me on LinkedIn. That speech? Damn. My old music teacher, who somehow still talks to Aunt Lydia, emailed me. You grew up into exactly the kind of man I always hoped you would. And then there was Jordan. He sent me a photo, Dad, standing alone at a gas station, staring at the Mercedes as someone else fueled it up. The caption? Man's soul left his body when he remembered it's not his anymore, face with tears of joy. That photo stayed on my phone longer than it should have. I wasn't proud of the pain. But I was proud of the power shift. I used to be the family's soft landing. The backup plan. The one they assumed would say yes no matter how sharp the insult. Now, I was just gone. And they were still trying to figure out how to operate without their favorite scapegoat. But I wasn't done. Not completely. One afternoon, I got a call from my lawyer. The charitable trust paperwork had gone through. Final. Active. Over the years, I'd quietly accumulated more than enough to live well. More than I needed. So I made a decision. The Background Kid Fund. It's real. That's what I called it. A scholarship and mentorship initiative aimed at helping kids from dysfunctional families who feel invisible. The ones who get overlooked. The ones who are never the golden child. The ones who are always told, you'll be fine, while the others get saved. Vanessa's daughter, my niece? She's the first recipient. She doesn't know it came from me. She just knows someone believed in her art portfolio enough to sponsor a summer program across the country. And Jordan? He's helping me run part of the program. Turns out, the black sheep and the screw-up make a decent team when no one's micromanaging them. One night I sat in my home office with a whiskey in hand, staring at an old family photo. The fake smiles. The perfectly posed illusion. The version of me shoved to the edge, half-shadowed. I put it through the shredder. And then I framed a new one, Me, Jordan, and Lila, my niece, at a small art fair last weekend. No fake smiles. Just us. Laughing. Unbothered. Unfiltered. Unapologetically outside the lines. I didn't need revenge anymore. I had a legacy. And they? They had each other. Still trying to figure out why their stories no longer revolve around me. I didn't burn the bridge. I just bought the land on the other side and built something better. Where only love gets a key. And I keep the pen.